The morning sun cast a golden hue over the military base, glinting off the neatly lined barracks and polished vehicles. The air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of helicopters warming up for the day's training exercises. Among the hustle of young Marines rushing to their duties, one officer stood out, a young USMC captain named James Harper. Freshly promoted and eager to make his mark, Captain Harper was known for his sharp wit and a playful streak that often lightened the tense atmosphere of base life. That morning, as he walked along the perimeter of the base, something unusual caught his eye. Standing near the entrance gate was an elderly woman, her posture surprisingly straight, her presence commanding yet unassuming. Her silver hair was neatly pinned, and she wore a simple outfit that contrasted sharply with the crisp uniforms of the Marines around her. There was a quiet dignity about her, something that immediately drew Captain Harper's curiosity. He had seen many people come and go through the gates, but there was something different about her, a sense that she had seen more than most could imagine. Harper's natural curiosity, mixed with a mischievous sense of humor, kicked in. He thought to himself, here's a perfect opportunity for a little joke. She's probably just a visitor, but what if I playfully ask her rank? It might make her laugh, or at least break the ice. Smiling to himself, he adjusted his cap and approached her, the confident swagger of youth carrying him forward. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, his tone friendly and teasing, "if you don't mind me asking, what's your rank?" His grin widened, expecting perhaps a polite chuckle or a playful retort in return. The question, though simple, carried the light-hearted bravado of someone used to being in command, someone who rarely encountered moments outside the structured hierarchy he knew so well. He had no idea that the answer he was about to receive would stop him in his tracks, shift his perspective, and leave him shaking with a mixture of awe and embarrassment. In that brief moment, Captain Harper had no inkling that he was about to meet someone whose experience, authority, and legacy would overshadow anything he had encountered in his short but promising career. Captain Harper took a small step closer, his grin still plastered on his face. The morning bustle around the base seemed to fade as he focused on the elderly woman. She stood perfectly still, her hands folded gently in front of her, watching him with calm, unflinching eyes. Harper, confident in his playful approach, decided to lean into the joke just a little more. "So, ma'am," he began, tilting his head slightly, "if you don't mind me asking, what's your rank?" He chuckled softly, hoping his tone conveyed the teasing curiosity rather than any disrespect. "I've seen all kinds of ranks around here, from private to general, but I've never seen someone like you wandering the gates. I thought maybe you were, well, something special." The woman's eyes twinkled faintly, a subtle hint of amusement hiding beneath her serene exterior. Harper interpreted it as encouragement, convinced that she might play along with his joke. After all, how often did a young Marine get to test the boundaries of protocol with humor? He had always believed a little light-hearted banter could break the monotony of military life, and today felt like a perfect opportunity. He took another confident step forward, lowering his voice slightly so that it carried the intimacy of camaraderie. "Come on, you can tell me," he said with a wink, "I promise I won't report you for skipping PT or messing up the salute." His laughter was soft, almost conspiratorial, as if he were sharing a secret joke that only they could appreciate. Around them, the base continued its rhythm, Marines marching, vehicles rolling by, and the distant roar of a helicopter cutting through the sky, but for Harper, the moment had narrowed to just him and the woman. He felt certain he was about to receive a smile, a laugh, maybe a clever retort. Yet even as he spoke, there was an almost imperceptible aura about her that he couldn't quite place. It was subtle, but it made him pause for a heartbeat. There was a quiet authority in the way she held herself, a stillness that spoke of experience and confidence. Harper laughed nervously, assuming she was simply enjoying the harmless tease. Little did he know, the answer he was about to hear would be far from playful. It would leave him stunned, humbled, and scrambling to process the reality of who he was speaking to. The elderly woman's eyes met Captain Harper's with a steady, unwavering gaze. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The bustle of the base, the marching Marines, the distant hum of engines, the chatter of morning briefings, faded into a quiet background hum. Harper's grin faltered slightly as he noticed the calm confidence radiating from her. There was something in her demeanor, something profound and unshakable, that immediately made him rethink his playful approach. Then, without hesitation, she spoke. "Major General," she said, her voice clear, firm, and completely devoid of humor. The words struck Harper like a lightning bolt, shattering the light-hearted bubble he had built around this encounter. His mind froze, fumbling to reconcile the playful question he had asked with the reality of the answer. A major general, a rank he had only ever seen in textbooks, in distant command briefings, and on ceremonial occasions, was standing right in front of him, casually fielding his joke as though it were nothing. Harper blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Major, General," he stammered, his voice betraying the surprise he felt deep in his chest. The words were heavy, carrying decades of leadership, discipline, and responsibility that Harper had yet to fully comprehend. He had always respected rank and authority, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this moment, when the authority was not just on paper but alive, commanding, and unmistakable in presence. The woman's calm expression never wavered. She did not offer a hint of superiority or arrogance, only the quiet confidence of someone who had earned every stripe, every accolade, and every command with unwavering dedication. Harper's playful bravado evaporated instantly, replaced by a mix of awe, humility, and a sudden self-awareness of his own inexperience. In that instant, the young captain realized that respect was not something granted lightly or demanded through ceremony, it was felt instinctively when faced with someone who had lived it. His knees felt slightly weak, and he instinctively straightened his posture, suddenly aware of the weight of the uniform he wore. The joke he had intended to make had dissolved in an instant, leaving only a profound lesson in humility and admiration. Captain Harper, who had walked toward her with confidence and humor, now stood frozen, shaking slightly, his playful attitude completely replaced by deep respect. This encounter, brief as it was, would become a story he would remember for the rest of his career, a moment when a simple question turned into a powerful lesson in authority, legacy, and the true meaning of rank. Captain Harper felt his stomach tighten as the words, "Major General," echoed in his mind. His usual confidence, the swagger that had carried him through countless drills and inspections, was gone. It was as if the ground beneath him had shifted, and he suddenly realized the immensity of the presence before him. The elderly woman stood there, calm and composed, yet the weight of her career, her authority, and her experience seemed to fill the entire space around them. Harper's grin vanished completely, replaced by a stunned silence. He opened his mouth to say something, anything, but the words seemed to get caught halfway, tangled in disbelief. He had meant his question to be playful, a light-hearted jab in the monotony of morning routines, yet the reality of her rank struck him like a hammer. He felt a flush rise to his cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and awe. Around him, the bass continued its morning rhythm, but for Harper, it felt distant and muted. Every drill he had ever led, every order he had confidently given, suddenly seemed trivial compared to the decades of service represented by this woman standing before him. His mind raced, recalling stories of major generals, leaders who commanded respect, who shaped strategies, and whose decisions affected thousands. And now, here she was, casually standing at the gate, responding to a young captain's teasing question with authority that left no room for misjudgment. He swallowed hard, trying to regain his composure, but the shaking of his hands betrayed him. Harper instinctively straightened his back, corrected his posture, and lowered his gaze slightly, not out of shame, but out of respect. He felt a mix of emotions, admiration, humility, and a twinge of regret for his earlier flippancy. In that moment, he realized that leadership was not just about rank or titles, it was about presence, experience, and the quiet power that comes from years of unwavering service. The young captain's mind replayed the encounter in fast motion, his teasing tone, the expectant smile, the way he had underestimated the authority of someone who looked, at first glance, like any other visitor. Every detail now felt amplified by the lesson he had just learned. He would carry this moment forward, a reminder that respect is earned and that authority is not always visible, it is felt. Harper's shaking hand slowly stilled as he took a deep breath. For the first time that morning, he truly understood what it meant to face someone of remarkable experience and rank, and the encounter left an indelible mark on his mind and heart. Captain Harper stood frozen for a few more moments, letting the weight of the encounter sink in. The playful bravado he had carried just minutes before was gone, replaced by a deep, almost reverent awareness of the authority standing before him. He realized that leadership was not something announced with words or appearances, it was something recognized instinctively, something felt the moment one stands in the presence of someone who has earned it through decades of service, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment. He swallowed, his voice finally finding its strength. "Yes, ma'am," he said, his tone respectful and sincere. There was no trace of his earlier teasing, no hint of the joke he had attempted to make. Instead, there was only acknowledgement of experience, of wisdom, and of a life dedicated to duty. The Major General nodded slightly, a faint, approving smile crossing her face. She didn't need to say anything more, the message had already been conveyed. Harper felt a wave of humility wash over him. He thought of his own career, still young and full of promise, and realized how much he had yet to learn, not just about tactics, drills, or regulations, but about character, presence, and the quiet power of earned respect. The encounter reminded him that leadership is not measured solely by medals or rank insignia, but by how one carries oneself, how one earns the trust of subordinates, and how one commands attention through integrity and experience. As he stepped back and straightened his uniform, Harper felt a newfound sense of purpose. He would carry this lesson with him for the rest of his career, a constant reminder that true authority is subtle yet undeniable, commanding respect even without a single word. The Major General, with her calm demeanor and decisive presence, had taught him a lesson no training manual ever could. Before walking away, Harper offered a small, respectful salute. It was more than a formality, it was a gesture of understanding, of appreciation, and of reverence for the path she had walked and the legacy she represented. In that brief encounter, the young captain had been humbled, enlightened, and inspired. And as the Major General continued on her way, leaving the base entrance behind, Harper stood for a moment longer, letting the lesson settle into his mind and heart. He knew he would never forget this encounter, the moment a simple, joking question had turned into a profound lesson in respect, humility, and the true meaning of rank.